Hey guys, welcome to the Trash Pre Show. This is my top 10 obscure facts on the Alien franchise, starting with number 10. The first fact is John Hurt almost didn't play Kane. It was another actor by the name of John Finch. Um, what happened was Scott originally wanted Hurt to play the role. However, he had another film to shoot in Africa, Zulu Dawn. So the actor John Finch took over the role. However, 2 or 3 days into the shoot, Finch became deathly ill, and it then transpired he was diabetic and didn't know about it. Scott decided to hold off filming any of Kane's scenes and film the other actors around it. After Zulu Dawn was shot, John Hurt came back and took over the role. And yeah, I'm glad he did, because John Hurt, while he doesn't have a big presence in the movie, he certainly does lend a lot to the character. This very kind of by the book, nihilistic kind of officer, and he does a really good job. I only kind of do feel sorry for John Finch, who lost out on a very iconic part. Fact number 9, another recasting fact. Richard E. Grant was supposed to be Clemens in Alien 3. David Fincher was a huge Withnail and I fan, and he wanted to have the three core members of that movie, Ralph Brown, Paul McGann, and Richard E. Grant, together again on the same movie. Um, Richard E. Grant did do a couple of auditions for the role of Clemens, but he was a bit too much. Richard E. Grant is a very kind of boisterous character, and he made Clemens come off somewhat maniacal. So they decided not to go with Richard E. Grant. They went to Charles Dance, who is a fantastic actor and does an amazing job as the role of Clemens. So I think they made the right choice with that. Fact number 8, the Nostromo was meant to be yellow. So Scott had the whole crew and model makers and designers and set builders kind of drilled into the notion that this is an industrial kind of setting, that the ship, the Nostromo itself, was a very industrious kind of piece of machinery. So going with that, the model makers decided to do a very kind of high vis color on the exterior of the Nostromo. Scott saw the dailies of the model and he was like, no fucking way, that thing looks like a giant banana in space, and he had them repainted to a more metallic color. And it makes sense. You don't really need to have kind of a high vis kind of cautionary color like a digger or a construction crane on a spaceship. It's out in the middle of space and it's fucking huge. You'd hardly miss it. So yeah, they went with the right thing by changing that to a different color. Fact number 7: the inside of the alien egg is dressed with something called Nottingham lace. Nottingham lace is basically cow stomach or offal, and the inside of the egg was dressed with this time and time again. Every time the facehugger came out, they had to redress it, so they had buckets of Nottingham lace, this offal, like just fucking piled up in a fridge. And um, sadly, someone unplugged the fridge, and the offal, well, as bad as it smelled when it was being refrigerated, it smelled a hell of a lot worse when the fridge was plugged out and it wafted through Pinewood Studio. So yeah, I'm glad I wouldn't have been on set for that. That would have been a horrible fucking experience to have rotting cow stomach waft through your nasal cavity. But yeah, you win some, you lose some, I guess. Uh, Fact number 6: James Remire was meant to be Hicks. Another recasting fact. Before Michael Biehn took the role of Hicks, it was James Remire, who had worked with Walter Hill, one of the producers of Aliens, um, on this movie. And Walter Hill knew Remire from working on the movie Warriors, and cast him because he was a very kind of live wire, very kind of headstrong, kind of tough guy character. However, some of that was down to the fact that Remire was a substance abuser. He was known to drink a lot, and he had a big problem with drugs. This came to a head when they were inside in the APC, and James Remire discharged his shotgun, and was fucking chewed out, bollocked out by Al Matthews, who played Opone. Seeing that he really couldn't keep a handle on him, Jim Cameron had to tell him, look, I gotta let you go. And he replaced him with Michael Biehn, and I am so glad of this. Michael Bihn's version of Hicks is such a cool character. He's one of my favourite characters from the franchise, and I think he done a fantastic role. I feel bad for James Remire, but it's just you couldn't have stuff like that going on the set. I mean, they were around live explosives, they were around kind of weapons. Even a blank can be dangerous, and I think Jim Cameron made the right choice by letting Remire go and hiring Michael Biehn. Remire has kind of vindicated himself. He's turned up in Dexter's foster dad, and he's also in Black Lightning. He's still a cool actor, and he seems to have gotten a handle on his demons, which is pretty cool. So, yeah. Question 5. Lambert actually had, in universe, had her gender altered at birth. So, here's the thing. There are two ways to look at this. Some people say that because Veronica Cartwright had a very kind of masculine look to her, that Scott kind of tailored her backstory to that. And this is an in-universe backstory. Another thing is that in the original spec script, Lambert was supposed to be a man. But the thing I like about this is it gives us a peek into the in-universe of Aliens that isn't so much the sci-fi part. It's more a kind of socio kind of look at the society that Ripley and the company exist in a future where parents can decide the gender. So I did think this was very interesting, and if you think it was a good idea or a bad idea, leave them in the comments below. I don't think it affects the story. I don't think it affected the performance of Veronica Cartwright or changed any aspect to the story. Again, it's in universe, so it doesn't really play any major fact. But what do you think? Do you think that's a cool thing to have Lambert, who had her gender altered at birth? Do you think it's an interesting part of the kind of alien mythos? Question 4. In the end of the Alien movie, the first Alien movie, the xenomorph is dying. Yes, Scott has said, another in-universe kind of thing, Scott has said that when Ripley encounters the xenomorph in the Narcissus, it's actually curled up in those computer banks because it's dying. And that would be more in line with the director's cut, because it has stung, or it has ovomorphed both Dallas and Brett, and it served its purpose. It's procreated, and now it's going to die. And it's a really cool concept. I like that idea. However, if you subscribe to the sequels, I think this might be something that you really, really wouldn't acknowledge that much. That you see the queen as the main procreator of the species. Maybe the xenomorph in Alien was turned into a queen, but according to Scott, it was actually dying. So yeah, fun fact there. Fact number 3. In the Heavy Metal comic that came out in 1970, the xenomorph had another kind of instinct or survival skill to turn into a pod or a box-like shape and camouflage itself among the ship. Now, we've seen that it could hide among the pipes and things, but in a scene in the comic, Ripley rounds the corner and comes across what looks like a very strange looking cargo container, and it uncurls to reveal itself to be the xenomorph. Scott obviously wanted this, but I think due to the limitations of the effects and the suit back in the 1970s, they just couldn't pull it off. We kind of got something like that in the deleted scene, which you can see on the original Alien DVD, of the alien trying to do a crab walk, but again, it looked more silly than anything. And I'm glad they didn't attempt this, because the suit and the effects just weren't able for it at the time. So yeah, that's fact number 3. Fact number 2. Sigourney Weaver didn't realize that she'd have to use a gun in Aliens. So Jim Cameron was delighted. He got Sigourney Weaver back for the part of Ripley. She read the script, loved it, loved the whole maternal aspect in it. She came on set and she was handed a pulse rifle, and she was like, what the hell is this? And Jim Cameron's like, didn't you read the script? And he goes, yeah, but I can't do this. And to this day, Sigourney Weaver is an anti-gun advocate, and she kind of was really in a bad place because she didn't want to kind of corrupt her morals by using a weapon. But Jim Cameron had to take her aside and explain, look, this is a combat movie. Ripley is trying to survive. She would use a gun to survive. So after a bit of grilling and a bit of talking, Sigourney Weaver was brought around to using a gun in the movie. But when she was brought back for Alien 3, she made one of the stipulations for returning that there would be no guns in the movie. And it's pretty cool. She stood by her morals to this day about guns, but she was willing to kind of bend them slightly for what is a very cool and iconic role. So yeah, fair play Sigourney. And the last fact was in the end of Alien, one of Scott's endings was Ripley was going to die. Yes, in the original Alien, Ripley shoots it in the chest with the harpoon, but instead of blowing it out the airlock, it climbs back in, attacks her, tears her head off, and sits at the control station, speaking into the radio and speaking to the company, saying that it will arrive home soon. So yeah, that I'm glad they didn't do. That would have been very fucking jarring. I don't know what it would have been like to see it for the first time in the 70s, but like, if you watch the characters go through that and then for that shit to happen, that would suck. That would suck supremely. So I'm glad they didn't go with that ending. Yeah, Scott went to the producers about it and he told them the ending and they were like, no way, we're not having that. So yeah, that was my 10 obscure facts on the Alien franchise. If you guys have any, leave them in the comments below. And yeah, I'm going to be doing a couple of videos on the lead up to Alien Day. And yeah, I hope to see you there. Take care. Bye now.